Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 195B. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge in the comic forums, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensei of the whatnot Segulin. I'm going to be jumping into this one pretty quickly, but I got a few announcements first. First of all, this is going to be the second part of our interview with Freddie E. Williams II. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter episode. I deliberately cut this into a two-parter to give myself a little bit of time to edit this one because I wanted to clean it up and polish it up. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. I teased this on the first part of this, and I want to officially announce right now. We got a contest that we're doing with colorist and friend of the show, David Barron. You've seen his work in things like Green Arrow, Black Canary, JSA All Stars, the co-feature, Superman, Batman, Batman Confidential, and Vigilante. That's just the tip of the iceberg of some of the work that David Barron's done, but that's some of his most recent work, so I really wanted to shout that out. David Barron's blog is myzombies.blogspot.com. That's in the show notes. There's also his Twitter page, which is myzombies. To enter this amazing contest, all you have to do is go to David's blog, sign up, right up in the upper right-hand corner. If you've already got a Gmail account or a Twitter account, it's real easy to sign up. Just click the sign up button and you can link them to those accounts. It's very simple to do. Make sure to go back to David Barron's blog page and click follow, which is usually up in the upper left. There's also an opportunity to do it directly on David's page. Make sure to follow it, though. Do the same thing with Twitter. That gives you two contest entries. David is going to pull randomly from the Twitter account or from his blog page one winner each month for a great prize. This month, the prize is going to be 1 month's worth of David Barron's DC comps. That box could include anything from trade paperbacks to single issues to possibly even hardcovers, he said. It's anywhere from $100 to $500 worth in value. 1 month of DC comps. All you got to do is sign up on both of those and follow them so that way your name is listed there so you can be picked for that. Very simple contest. Great way to follow David's work. On his blog, you're going to see some original artwork of his. You're going to see some original color work of his. It's a great opportunity to get to know David as an artist. So make sure to sign up on those. Get into that contest. It's just plain awesome. I want to thank colorist and friend of the show, David Barron, for including us on this contest, and I hope one of you wins. I'm really excited for you on this one. Also sponsoring us this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com, where you can pick up JSA All Stars, regularly $3.99, 40% off, only $2.39. So definitely check out that book if you're not already reading it. And over these past couple episodes, I'm hoping that you see the reason that you want to be following this book. Thank you, DCBService.com, for those incredible pre-order deals. Also sponsoring us this episode are InStockTrades.com, where you can pick up a JLA Avengers trade paperback. This 208-page tome by Kurt Busiek, George Perez, is the crossover between DC and Marvel. We are going to be recording that episode somewhere near the end of January. It's regularly $19.99, 47% off, only $10.59. It's going to be a chance for us to talk both DC and Marvel on Raging Bullets. $10.59 if you haven't picked that up. 208 pages. It's going to be amazing. InStockTrades.com is your source for trade paperbacks and hardcovers at incredible discounts. Thank you, InStockTrades.com, for supporting us. Be sure to check out RagingBullets.com for listener-produced columns, blogs, Where's Whatnot Nows, DC release dates, and more. I just did some updates to the website. Actually, in our columns section, I've divided in two columns now in and of itself. There's a columns section and a blog section. I'm really trying to organize that a little bit better to make it easier for people to find the things that they're looking for on there. If you have anything that you want to add to our website or any links or things like that that should be up there, please contact me at ragingbullets@gmail.com. We love having listener participation. If you got a column of your own you'd like to write, we're always welcoming new submissions to the website. Our website's all about fans kind of banding together and getting their voice out there, so we'd love to have you be a part of our website. Our voicemail line is 1-440-388-4434 or drnorge on Skype. Remember, episode 200, greatest DC Universe stories of all time. We'd love to have you participate in that. So consider sending us a voicemail or an email, and we'd love to have you part of that show. Without further ado, I'm going to jump us right back in to Freddie E. Williams II as we discuss JSA All Stars in the second of a two-part interview. If you didn't check out the first part, please do that before listening to this. Jim, what kind of a podcast are we?
Well, Sean, we are a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth in plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're reviewing. So if we're going over something you haven't read, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Nice work, Atom. What are these characters up to?
We were talking about Citizen Steel and started going into some of the characters. And one other character, we talk about characters like I will sometimes say I want to punch Magog. I want to punch this. Is it Kid Chimera or Kid Chimera? I forget how to pronounce him, but I want to punch him at various times, and I love him.
It's King Chimera.
Right.
Yeah, he's purposely written to be pretty arrogant. So yeah, I actually like him quite a bit. I think he's a cool guy. Good character.
I do too. I say
he's
that.
Smarmy.
Yeah, I say that, but he's one of those characters that I'm drawn to, and he's a new character for this run. They created him for Just Society of America and brought him in. I like him a lot. He's interesting. He's because he's so smarmy, like you said. I there's times where I want to clock him one, but I'm interested to learn more about his background, his motivations, what made him who he is. And that's kind of the fun of having him as a new player in the game.
Well, let me ruin it for you. Let me just tell you. No, I'm joking. But no. Yeah, Matt Sturges created him, and then there was a slight revamp only of his symbol whenever he came over to the All Stars. Although I don't think he's classified as a psionic, but he uses mental powers or something. I thought it would be interesting to do a play on, if you were to do a look at the emblem that's on his chest, it kind of represents, he's not psionic, but I always think of him as one. He has mental powers. So I picture mental rays, and mental rays can have some similarities to some of Dark Age art or Renaissance art of Jesus, and with the rays that stick out from behind his head. So I thought it would be interesting and Jesus is king, supposed to be a king, and I thought it would be interesting to combine those two things to basically make a play off of, I don't think he has a Messiah complex. I think it would be it would have been kind of cool if and maybe he will end up having one. I don't know, because he thinks he's so much higher than others, but redesigning his symbol, that's what I had in mind, was that it was a play on the word king and then the sun rays versus, mental power rays or something.
I loved seeing him when he faced off the infernal lemurs or whatever they're called.
The wizards.
Yeah. The wizard.
Yeah.
That was a great moment, because I love with him that as a reader sometimes we don't know what's real and what he's projecting until it's actually revealed. It makes it fun to kind of pay attention to what he's doing and trying to look for clues to see if, has he actually done anything yet, or is he just preparing for it? And that's always the fun with that character. It's why he's really growing on me as someone very interesting to follow.
He's actually the type of character I would have played in a role-playing game. So I connect with him pretty well. I had lots of characters that were kind of smarmy like that, and then also had mental power, psionic powers.
Yeah, see, I always did the fighter class, just go in, bash someone's head in, kind of. When I was doing that kind of stuff, it wasn't as complicated as I am now, so it was just the simple smash and grab type deals.
Nothing wrong with that.
Stargirl with Jack Knight's Star Rod.
And that was a cool sequence, just not only just story wise. Again, the look of her as she's kind of using the force to call the rod to her. You see that concentrate once again, going from that concentration to the elation when she's getting it. She's like, then that final sequence when she's going, okay, time to open up a can. Have that once again. The emotional gambit on one page that ran through with her. It's another cool just melding of art and the story.
She didn't know if she could do it. I liked that.
Yeah.
I liked that aspect of where we see her in that second panel in deep concentration, hoping that it was going to work because of the distance. This was something new to her. And then like you said, the happiness at wow, yes, it worked. Yeah. And then the kind of let's get to business.
Yeah, basically the whole place was coming down around her, so that was the do or die or whatever. So yeah, I didn't know that was established before. Did you guys already know that, or did you pick up on that? I thought that this was something new that Matt Sturges was creating, but then I read somewhere that was an established part of either her mythos or maybe the cosmic rod mythos or something like that.
Jim, I knew about it before.
I did not know about it, so I read it. Yeah. With the way I read it, it was like she didn't know she could do that, or she had an idea she could maybe do it, and try to focus. Let's do this. It wasn't. I completely read it the way it was, a shock kind of thing to her, and
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually how I took it to be until just like 2 days ago.
well, and here's where in the dialogue, I think that's kind of a cool thing because it can be read on different levels depending on where you're at as a reader and knowing her. But
Right.
This bit with, okay, that rod is attuned to me, let's see how far that goes. She knew at that point that this rod was connected to her, but the distance was really the issue, which that for me was the part where, as a long-time reader, knowing it, I'm like, okay, so I think we were all at that point in the wondering how this is going to work and how this is going to play out. And that's what I think is neat. You can do something on a multi-layered level where it gives you the same feeling whether you're an established reader of the character or you're a new reader of the character and we're all on the same page. We all wound up with the same emotion, even though we had different backgrounds with her. That was cool.
That is cool. I hadn't thought of it like that, but yeah, that works. It works well.
One of the things, and I talked about this in the beginning, and I think this and the next page are great examples of you handling this with her. Again, she is, out of the team, one of the more established characters and one of the more established heroes. She was in the whole JSA run, the whole Justice Society of America run up until now. She's a veteran. The confidence that you're drawing her with right there when she goes into, now let's see what's what. And then on the next page when we see her kind of flying into battle, I was afraid I was going to have to take care of this mess on my own. I love the way you draw her with a confidence that's beyond her age. Because she still looks young, she has that feeling of youth, that's never lost, and I think it is something that's unique about Stargirl, it's something I really like about her, and I really appreciated the balance and how you pulled that off, because she does feel like she's wise beyond her years, yet she doesn't look like she's older than she should be. I think, am I making sense there? Because I think that's kind of cool.
That's what I was going for. I'm glad that it came off that way. There's a lot of mental gymnastics that I think artists do, and probably writers too, that sometimes you don't know if the reader will ever sort of pick up on that, because I guess even if the reader doesn't pick up on it, if you don't quite pull it off, because there's a lot of that too, that I don't pull off, but you think to yourself, well, at least it got me through the page. It let me know what she was thinking, even if no one else picks up on that or something, thinking or feeling or something. So I'm really flattered and glad that to hear you say that, because that's what I was going for, but you never know how, from reader to reader, or how well my own abilities would have allowed me to pull that off. So I think some of that probably comes from working with a character like Robin, where he's younger and trying to prove himself and that sort of thing. So but I'm glad that it came through.
The beautiful nature, the beautifully chaotic nature of this battle sequencing, just going through the multiple panels, multiple attack sequences, action here, was another thing that I really enjoyed throughout this right from where the team's rolling in to the engagement. You have the Pemberton is bodied, armored up, and he's got his hands full with Stargirl. You see just this constant one fight to another fight to another fight. That is something that I really enjoy in the comic book, and just the layouts, and it's something I can appreciate on really good artwork. Especially, I'm kind of sounding like a broken record here, but this is just a great meshing of a writing and the art, the visual and the words. A beautiful mesh through with what could be confusing and cluttered isn't. It's a nice just layout.
Whew, good. Because this book has really been pushing my understanding of storytelling, and so much stuff happening that it's hard to get all the information in there without A, missing something, but then B, over-cluttering the page or the panel to the point where it becomes, where's Waldo? And you can't pick up on what's happening anymore, and you did all that work for nothing. It's like baking a souffle or something, and you're really careful, but you're so worried that you keep double-checking it, and then because of that, that's why it deflates or something. It's possible with the more work you put into a page that it'll eventually defeat itself, because you'll hit the point where the eye can't distinguish it anymore and just becomes a jumble. So, and I think I kind of borderlined on some of that in the first issue. So, and after I had had some time to kind of reflect on that, I tried to find a better balance of it in the second and then third and now fourth issues. But yeah, I like a lot of chaos happening as well. That's why I like to indulge in scenes like that. But there's a fine line sometimes to walk where you can just take it too far. So.
You're like the Emerald of the DC art world. You're kicking it.
Oh, am I?
Bam!
That is what I say the entire time that I'm drawing. Is
I can imagine that.
I'm just yelling, bam!
Bam! I watch one too many food shows.
No, Kiki watches those. We've been watching the Worst Chefs in America or something. I can't remember what it's called, but that's hilarious. That's a great show. What a great idea to put them on TV. So, no, we watch quite a bit of that. We're watching. I love Rachel Ray. I have a huge crush on her, and I always act like we date. So anytime I say a joke, because I'm always trying to make Kiki laugh, and it only works half the time or something. But if I say a joke that I thought was really funny and she didn't really find funny, I'll say that was actually a joke that Rachel would have gotten as if we're like we're dating or something, and she's nice. Like, "Oh, is it? Oh, is it?" But anyway, yeah, I'm through Kiki. I'm watched quite a bit of the food shows myself. On a side note, today we were watching a Rachel Ray, like a 30-minute meals or something, where she just looked really tired, and where Rachel Ray did, and we were talking about how complex her life must be. And have you guys seen that there's like websites devoted to hating her? I mean, have you guys seen that?
Yeah, I've seen it, and I don't get the hate. I'm in the same boat as you. I really like the way she presents it, and just her personality that comes through in the little 30-minute meals. I'm like sitting there, and I can sit there, watch with her, and I don't get the hatred towards her. It's like they are fans of hating her. And I mean, not that I get it anywhere near this extent, but I think every writer or artist who's doing any sort of pop culture sort of stuff or whatever gets that. Like anytime an issue comes out, I think that they're a fan of complaining. So they seek out, instead of seeking out things that they like, they seek out things that they can complain about. And I was just surprised that anyone would take the time to build a website that would specifically nitpick on something that they disliked, when instead they could just use that energy to something that's creative. They could actually create something instead of trying to symbolically or psychologically destroy something, or find something that they like and then build a fan site towards that instead of building an anti-fan site towards something they dislike. That just seems so weird to me. It feels like those are people who, I mean, because I'm just making generalizations because I don't know them or whatever. It just seems like something got crossed, like some wires got crossed in their development, where they enjoyed picking at things, and their friends enjoyed doing that as well, and they all had a good time with it. So, I mean, because that part of it would describe me and my friends. But, because we like to dissect stuff, it was usually stuff that we still liked. Like, we might dissect stuff about Star Wars, but still agree that we like it and stuff. But, there's some problems. Then with these people who are fans of hating or whatever, they just wanted to keep pushing that. They wanted to relive that experience, or experience that feeling of, I'm superior to this thing that I found that I dislike. And I don't know, it's just a very weird thing. Seems like a weird thing to waste your time and effort on. But
it used to be.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. It used to be that fandom was about showing that you were like the bigger fan of it, and you were like wearing that like a badge. And I mean, I guess I long for a time, and there are people that do it, that create these great fan sites promoting something that they really enjoy. But I wish there was more of it. I mean, I have to admit, while we were talking, I was creating a Rachel Ray site, Rachel Ray is a Cheating Bee, because I found out that she laughs at your jokes and she doesn't laugh at mine on our dates. But so I've got some serious issues with her right now. But
right. I'll talk to her later, so don't worry.
My site's going up tonight, so forget it.
And you both know she's just with you guys to make me jealous.
Well, yeah, because you're singing. Yeah.
I think she's adorable, and even like the squeaks in her voice and stuff that some people seem to get annoyed with or something. But I mean, the thing is that there's other people on Food Network, and I can't even remember her name, but there's a lady who, I can't even remember her name. I know that she's she's blonde. That's all I know about her, really. But that I'm not a big fan of. But when she comes on, I don't watch it to then have something negative to say. I just click the channel or hit guide and then click the channel. It just seems like a weird thing. And maybe it is, fandom in general is about, maybe it started off with what sort of things you'd noticed. And so the more things you noticed, the bigger fan you were. And then that somehow turned into the more things you complain about. I don't know.
I long for balance, and I think we're seeing more of it. I think it's starting to head in the right direction, but I'm still pushing for more of that. Because I do think that people complain about television shows and comics and books and various things that get canceled, movies that don't get sequels and things like that they really liked. But I'm like, where was all the praise for it when it was out? Mm-hmm. If there's something you just dislike that much that you feel this passionate need to do that, more power to you. If you got to go do that. But take that same amount of energy, like you said, and put it to something else as well that you like. Promote that thing so we don't lose those things. I always am baffled by the amount of things that are put out that I think we, universally as fans, people will pick up on DVD later, or they'll, pick up in trade later, things like that, and say, geez, why didn't this do well? And it's like, well, because you didn't know it was out when, and that's no insult to the person who's saying that, it's generally, you didn't know it was out when it was out, and you weren't supporting it when it was out, because the people who were following it at that time weren't doing enough to let you know that it was there. I think there's a lot of things that get canceled that would have an audience and could be a part of a larger group, that if people put the same passion into it, and I think we're seeing more of it with blogs and things like that people are doing, but it is something that I would love to see more of out there, is just people putting their creative energies towards really just, hammering home this little thing that's in a corner that nobody knows about, and just getting the word out that, hey, this is cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that to me is a much more useful, instead of being unified with people because you share a common dislike, just be unified with people who you guys like the same stuff. I mean, usually you will find more in common with somebody who you like a series of things together, rather than people who just dislike, have an overlap in their great group of dislikes or something. So anyway, I mean, that was a tangent of a tangent, but thinking of Rachel Ray, I was just flabbergasted at the idea that there was so much, that she had garnished so much hate. Just don't pay attention to her if you have a problem with it. So
I think metaphorically that whole discussion applies to comics, though.
Oh, big time.
I really do. We're all sitting there saying that. I'm like, that so totally leads us right back into comics right now. I'm looking at this Power Girl sequence right here, and it's something we glossed over in the beginning that I thought was really cool in her internal dialogue, when she was talking about how hard it is to be a Kryptonian, because you got to hold back, because it's very easy to hurt people. It's something I've really enjoyed being explored with Superman. I love it being explored here with her, because she's got a little bit of a personality difference from Clark. I like that about her as well, that she's not like a female Clark. She's a Kryptonian with her own established personality, and I like how that's been fleshed out more and more in recent years, and that she has a little bit more of an aggressive nature about her. And there is something like that, and I like that about her, but yet she has to hold back even more because of that. And this scene where she gets to let loose because this giant, he's got this suit on, and Pemberton, it's Pemberton in the suit. When he's splashing out there, and she's like, yes, you just made my day. This is my chance to let loose on something because you're wearing something where I can. That's really cool. I mean, I love that moment, because it's something I connect with Kryptonian characters a lot more when you get to see that, yes, it's great to be Kryptonian. Yes, it's great to have all these powers, but there are drawbacks to it, especially when you're dealing with humans. And I like that.
It's like you're living in a world made of eggshells or something.
And that would be something that, for all how cool the powers are, especially if they have relationships with humans.
And it's your downside. That's the big weakness there. That it's one of the things that we've talked multiple times on the show about, how being a hero isn't always an easy life. It's especially in the comic book universes, you have these little things that if you start looking beyond what's going on the page, and you start thinking about what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, it's kind of a tough thing to deal with. And especially, I would say with her, probably more than Clark. She probably has a larger issues with that, because Clark, with his upbringing with Ma and Pa Kent, with his going through having kind of a quote-unquote normal life, in his secret identity and then his regular identity, it's easier probably for him because he had that adjustment period. We're seeing in her series, she's trying to get a normal life, trying to reestablish a secret identity, and it's kind of I like seeing just that. I don't want to say she's not doing a good job as Clark, but she does it. He's had a longer history of it in my reading.
That's what I was just thinking that when you were saying that. In my reading, I remember her from Earth 2. She did have that. But you're right, though. It actually is another great example of where it's multi-layered. She is coming back to that. It's been a long time since she's had that. So me remembering when she did have that, now seeing her try to get back to it again in this universe, now that her origin's kind of more set in stone and established again, and that was part of her history, we're in the same place with that. And I love that. It's kind of the cool thing about this character, and when you're reading that, I'm like, well, yeah, I'm seeing it the same way, even though my exposure to her is different. She does have a longevity with that for me, but it was a long time ago. It's fun.
To me, I don't have as much of it sounds like you guys know a lot more about her history. To me, I really dig the type of character that she is now, and I know that you guys do too, but I'm saying I don't have a lot of the reference as far as what she was like before, but I like even though this isn't addressed all the time about her in the comics or something, but just the fact that she's a female, and a female with such power or whatever, brings a whole nother dynamic to things, whether it doesn't even have to be related to, in quotes, girl power or anything like that. Actually, it's kind of the opposite of that. It's more about like a psychological sort of sternness or whatever that comes from her. It's a confidence, and I really like that about her. And whenever I'm drawing her, I try to give her a lot of presence that would portray that. And it's not really the same sort of presence that I would give to Superman, and it's definitely not the same presence I would give to Magog. So it's kind of a weird balance to try to make or to keep.
It's, I know your love of the character of Superman. That's got to be interesting for you. You're working with a Kryptonian now, but do you find yourself having to remind yourself that she's not Superman?
I guess probably the first two issues maybe, yes. But, because there's a certain pride and a certain power that they have in common, but she's more aggressive and maybe a little less diplomatic, that sort of thing. So, yeah, there's a certain amount of that I had to remind myself of, but now I feel like I'm getting to know, because there's been a lot of scenes with her and stuff, I feel like I'm getting to know her better.
And she was raised with the Earth 2 Superman. So that's kind of the great thing, too, where your relationship actually with Superman is actually an asset to you as well, because he was a father figure to her. So it's funny, when you were talking earlier about how in Kingdom Come you had that like father figure relationship, it's funny, you probably, as an artist with your relationship with Superman and how you view him a lot of times, can relate to Power Girl directly because she has that kind of relationship with him. And it's so cool that like, when I was sitting there, I'm like, boy, he's got a direct like relationship with the character of Power Girl because he feels very similar about that character in the way that she would have.
Yeah, that's something I hadn't thought of before. But yeah, that would be a correlation there, that a connection. Yeah, that I didn't know I had with her.
You'd probably get along very well.
What's that?
I said you'd probably get along very well.
I hope so, because she could toss me to the other side of the moon or something.
Yeah. I like this bit with King Chimera, again, with the lemurs.
Yeah. No, you said it right the first time, the infernal lemurs.
Infernal lemurs, is that what it is? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And the infernal lemurs, it's just so funny because destroy this smug stripling, and he had already at this point in time taken over and started using his powers here. And you can tell by the look on his face, because he does have that smug expression on his face, and it was so cool to see him utilizing this whole thing to kind of play with his mind.
And set him up for Judo, come in from behind, bam, drop it. And it's cool team dynamics in the battle sequence. I liked how when we even just going back to when they first approach, Magog didn't do a attack pattern alpha, a generic statement. He actually laid it out. Okay, gold team, blue team, and he broke down the teams, what their assignments. It's a really cool tactical move, and it had that very strong military vibe to it. And I really like seeing that type of battle commands and that type of stuff, and whatnot coming from him in the title.
And some of that is, it's also very helpful to me because it's almost like Magog is ordering me on what to draw. So he's giving orders to me in the real world.
Cyclone with
Icicle. That was a good scene. It was funny because it went from a funny moment, because I love the little joke, Wizard of Oz reference. It's like Billy Burke put on Margaret Hamilton's costume by mistake. I chuckled at that, and then it went darker where he's like, it really doesn't matter what you wear when you're dead. It was just a cool progression, again, with a character that, as I said, I really like Cyclone. And then in the background, you see Magog clearing holster. And that was the one detail. I like seeing that in the background. You see him clearing holster. You see him pointing to the gun. It wasn't just a blind, shot just in the next panel. You actually see the setup for it in the background, upper corner of the one panel. So I love seeing that kind of background details, the little extra thing right there.
That's where I wish that we had a little bit more room to build up actually a little bit more of that action sequence between actually the whole thing, even from the beginning with Icicle and Cyclone all the way through to Power Girl, catching the bullet and stuff. I wish that we had probably another page in there to space some stuff out, but we just didn't have enough room. So, but hopefully it still had some drama to it.
I liked that Cyclone felt, and I want to be cautious saying this, because anytime I label a character like another character, I don't want to make it seem cookie cutter, because it's just far from it. She reminds me of what I liked about Kitty Pryde in the very early Claremont X-Men, where she was first introduced, the vulnerability to her. Yet the difference with Cyclone is a lot more powerful and a lot more, I don't want to say erratic, hyper. Hyper is probably a better word for her. She's constantly talking.
Well, she's the motor mouth. She's got a kind of high energy. It's the Energizer Bunny, just rocking and keeps on going.
But she does that with her powers too.
Yeah,
like she wants to be involved in everything, right in the middle of it, and it shows the inexperience gets her in a little bit of trouble there, and I liked that. That felt very natural to where the character's at. Experience-wise, I don't know what King Chimera's experience is. I mean, I think that's something we're learning as we're going through. Mm-hmm. He's there for the benefit of being able to pull some of that knowledge base from these characters, but in her case, she feels like the most inexperienced member of the team. I love that just kind of flows, and it makes sense in this whole moment, where Magog, being that he would be more of the military person, having been in there, he would handle that in that manner that he's more comfortable with.
Yeah, definitely.
And something's got to give, and I like the feel of this. That's what was important to me, because I was wondering how I was going to feel about the relationship between these two leading the team. Like I said, I'm very old school JSA, and it was something where I'm like, how am I going to feel about this whole relationship and how it's building and all that? And I do like that. I think it's one of the strengths of the team split and having the two books is that I'm getting one feel over in the JSA book, and over here we're getting this exploration that I'm really starting to dig. Because these moments with Power Girl right here, we're seeing some very strong moments from her, establishing her philosophy in just as strong a manner that we've been seeing from Magog. This issue very much was more focused on, for me, was more focused on her philosophy, whereas I thought the first issue was a lot more focused on Magog's. Mm-hmm. And I think it really nicely leads to those two coming to a head in a way where I think you've established two very different points of view, where you can be on one side, the other side, or somewhere in the middle. It makes for an interesting. It feels like a boxing match just waiting to happen.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, you don't. Well, you're pretty accurate in that. Yeah, it does get expanded upon or carried through into issue 3 and then in the annual. So, and I like that too. I like the built-in drama or strife or something that it gets to be explored or whatever in front of our eyes. So, I mean, there's a lot of differences there to settle. So let's see how they get settled.
Johnny Sorrow, very enigmatic, just in the way he carries himself. In various points during the battle, it was back a couple pages where we got to see Citizen Steel trying to throw a punch through him, and he's just walking very nonchalantly through all this chaos. And that stays pretty consistent all the way through. Yeah. Even when he's doing things, it's very controlled. I like that about him. It's just something different. I always liked it about him. And it's something very unique about the character. I love seeing him back. It's like a good time for him to come back. And to see him with Stargirl here and how this relationship is going on, this has been a nice build, because this has been building since Sturgis and Willingham took over JSA. And then I expected that to come to a head in their initial arc. I thought that was where that was going. They totally swerved me because that arc ended very differently than I expected. And then when it split off into the two books, it became the focal point of this one. And I was so ready to follow that and see where it was going. I had no idea it was going to be Johnny Sorrow, and now that it's all playing out. And I really liked that. I mean, it was a neat little twist. Again, multi-layered, that there's more than one thing going on in the issue. And what a creepy...
Yeah,
just creepy moments with him.
It's funny because I've done some desperate stuff to get attention, to get a female's attention, but this dude takes the cake, man. When you're hiring people to kidnap her just to show how much you care, that's a little bit over the edge. He needs to just calm down a little bit, I'll set up a double date, me and Rachel, him and, Stargirl. We'll have a nice, friendly involvement, maybe a little miniature golf, something kind of relaxed.
Yeah, they don't make Hallmark cards for the type of love that he has. So.
Yeah. But yet they should.
Yet they should, yeah.
Well, I've gotten some that would fit that. I've gotten the restraining order Hallmark card, Have no contact, must remain...
I've been sending you that since we've been podcasting.
Podcasting from jail.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we've done airport. I did the hospital. Hey, we can...
Wow, you did. You were podcasting from the hospital? I didn't hear about that one.
We did. Yeah, there was one where you were actually.
I was in the hospital, and we did it through the phone. We were talking about the Supergirl and a couple other. It was a couple Supergirl and a couple other titles. While I'm laying in bed, and there's a couple times if you could kind of hear. I was trying to hold the phone so you could hear the paging, the doctor stuff in the background, and the one time the nurse came in to check my vitals while I was on the phone, and just the look I got from her, like, what the hell? I'm sitting there talking, oh yeah, I think I liked it really about Supergirl, what's going on? And she just gives me this look like, okay, what do we got going on here?
That's great. What were you in the hospital for?
Oh, just for that.
Yeah.
It was just interesting to broadcast from there, or to record from there.
Diverticulitis.
I like these moments at the ranch when they go back and trying to go back into the book after this.
Good luck.
Yeah. No, this is really important because these are the moments where we finally get to see, like I said, I wanted to see what her role was on the team. This isn't your personal role. My team, my rules, no killing ever. And I was glad to see her laying down the law because I loved her as the chairperson of JSA. I'm glad that just wasn't thrown out the window. It was a good use right here. And showing the two very dominant alpha personalities right here, and coming from two very different directions, just some great dynamic between the two, because both of them right here, from their facial expressions, we're seeing Power Girl a little bit off to the side like we're standing next to her. At least I'm pretending I am. And then we got Magog over there. Both of them, though, same powerful. I'm digging my feet in at this point, and there is no budging me. And I totally feel that coming off of the page there. And then the reaction... Because this so totally, I could see myself sitting amongst this group, having the reaction to the whole thing. It's a spectator sport now. And it's like, who do we side with here? The discussion we were all having earlier is what they're having right there. So that's where the very human discussion that we're now brought into that human discussion. Moments like this are really important to me in a comic, because these are the calm moments where it adds a reality to it. And adds a little bit of a human dynamic that it engrosses you further into the story. And this totally did this for me here.
I like that the younger members are dealing with it a little bit lighter. Like, oh, mom and dad's fighting. Hey, at least if they get a divorce, we'll get 2 presents for Christmas. Kind of. And it's the two younger people, but it's Citizen Steel, who is mature, more adult-like. He's like, no, this is a problem, because he knows that this could divide the team and end the team.
Also, though, he is more of the family man out of the group. You take a look at Wildcat's son's relationship with Dad and his family, and Damage's crazy past. These two do not have the established family roots that he does. So when these two are like kind of talking and joking around about that, he's like, no, this is not a way you want to keep a family together, guys. This is not funny. And I like that, because that's a very real human dynamic too, where people, because of their different backgrounds and experiences, are going to react differently based on that. I loved that because I related to that. I felt they all felt human.
Good. Yeah, and it allows us to kind of take or at least identify with that conversation, because you're right. I mean, it humanizes the characters, and we've all been in that sort of a situation, even if the parents didn't get divorced or something, just where they're really yelling at each other. And at least for me, I'd be like looking around like I'm not sure how to really react in this situation, because usually they're yelling at me. But now they're yelling at each other. So
panels here on this page were really important to me as a longtime JSA reader. I don't, Jim, you might have read this the same way, but for me, it was I remember Our Man way back in the day with the Infinity Inc. team that he's talking about, Stargirl with the JSA. We've got these two characters that are in a similar place where they're looking back on the past. We as readers are, and connecting with this new situation. This is another area I ate this up, because I felt like I was connecting with them there, because this is new for me too. They totally spoke to me, and I think that was really an important moment to kind of latch on and hook into your longtime readers of JSA and say, hey, we're with you. They're with you. This is these are your guys you want to latch on to, because they're your focal point into this series. They're your focal point into what's going on here. And these are moments that were really important to me. And they're 4 panels, but they were 4 critical panels for me.
The one thing I really digged about it was just, you think about what she went through. It wasn't just being kidnapped. It wasn't just about battle. It was, the whole kidnapped, and it was kidnapped because of the twisting of the relationship type of thing, or the proclamation of his love, or he's going to make her love him. That kind of adds a whole nother creep factor to the kidnapping even. So I read it as, a nice, tie back to what is the JSA, but I also read it as this is a longtime friend. This is, a big brother to her, making sure that didn't affect her. Mm-hmm. Make sure that kind of stuff didn't, because I know if I had a female friend who had some remotely weird thing like this happen, I would be like, hey, are you okay? I'm here for you, kind of deal.
Here's the great thing, though. Their bond is the fact that they're both from, like, that classic era.
Yeah.
He really never was like a big brother figure to her. That was Al. So their bond is that they were from that past, and they're connecting over that. And you're right that he is doing that right here. And I think he's doing that also as a liaison to the other team. She's been brought in by Power Girl specifically as another link to the other team, to have some people on her side who she can count on for that reason. But I love that they're bonding over that shared history. And you're right, it does feel that way. So I'm not disputing you, but I love, as a longtime fan, I'm like, well, they didn't really have that relationship, but it makes sense that they would bond and become that kind of relationship out of the fact that they're in this team where they're the only two that can relate on that level. And that's cool. It's, again, a very real, very human thing where they found something in each other that they probably both need.
Oh, it's getting deep in here, guys. You guys are digging. That almost sounded bad. I was going to say, it's getting
deep and philosophical, not deep the other way. We got you.
I think we did that with Rachel Ray earlier.
Yes, I meant it in a philosophical way. That's a lot of cool interpersonal sort of continuity, history sort of stuff that you guys were bringing up. I think it's right on with what Matt Sturgis was going for. So. That's cool.
I thought it was important to note, though, because I think it's hard for creators and creative teams to find a balance of connecting with new readers, because you've got to do that with a book. You've got to look for new readers. That's the whole point when you launch a new series. Like, let's get some new people involved that weren't previously reading. But you also got to say, we don't want to alienate the long-time fans. How do you find that balance? And you need moments like that for that. And I just thought it was particularly interesting that it was 4 panels, how they meant so much to me. And you read it differently.
Yeah.
And I agree with everything you said, but you read it very differently, and that is where it gets deep. And that's what's great about comics, is that you can get that deep with them. It's worth reading them multiple times to get that deep with them, because it certainly adds a lot of bang to the buck.
Yeah, especially at the $4 price tag or whatever it is for these now.
Right, absolutely. And, well, this one it's $3.99 because of the co-feature.
Right. Yeah, it's a 30-page, and, I mean, the first issue was 30 pages of all the main story, and then the second, and I'm not sure how long it'll continue, meaning I just I know at least until issue 6, but it might go further or past that. But the main feature being 20 pages and then the co-feature being 10 pages will be like that for a while. But I mean, I think it's worth it, meaning if I had not been yeah, I'd be willing to pay $4 for a comic book. I mean, I get enough, but that's because I do look at them over and over. It's not just a disposable medium to me. So.
And I encourage people to do that. Because
you get more for it.
You get more for it, and it becomes a value then. Then you begin to appreciate more what you actually got for that dollar. If you're reading that book quickly and just putting it down and walking away, you're really missing so much of what goes on in a comic book and what is put into a comic book. And it's honestly something I've got to admit, I did it as a kid all the time out of necessity. But it's something since we've been doing the show, I've been doing more and more to prepare for the show. And now I don't do it with just the books we're doing on the show. I do it with all my books because I do find that it just increases my enjoyment. I catch things more. I enjoy the story more. I really get a handle on what the writer and artist was trying to do. And these are not meant to be read quickly and thrown aside. They just aren't.
Yeah, at least that's the hope. I mean,
right.
Yeah, and I mean the trade gives that sort of thinking some longer legs, that people will hold on to the trades and stuff more. But yeah, I think it's the same thing with the single issues too. I mean, some people just wait for the trades, and that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But either way, I mean, it's something that I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm a little partial or something, but I know how much work goes into a comic book, and it's good to give that work a second and third look or something to like what you said, to pick up on stuff you didn't originally see, even if it could be on story subtext, or it could be or emotional or whatever, or it could be even artistically. A lot of artists, when they're drawing this stuff, they put lots of little private jokes and funny stuff in the background, and sometimes you can pick up on that stuff. So that increases your enjoyment level too.
As I was looking over here, this bit with Sand, he's a character that's been important to me, or Sandman now he's going by. But he's a character who, since the original JSA, where he was a team leader, now seeing this guy in this place where these powers of the dreams have overtaken him now. And he sees things that are coming, big things that are coming, and he's seen it. And now we're starting to get more and more of a glimpse into what he knows. And imagine being that scared that you're afraid to sleep.
That'd be terrible.
Oh,
Yeah.
God, yeah. Yeah, and the one thing now, when he starts seeing Wesley and his wife, are those actually part of his powers creating it, or is that sleep deprivation illusions that are creating those images?
It is never specified, to my knowledge or to my memory, it's not specified in the script. I took it to be he's in such a state of stress and with such sleep deprivation that he was imagining some comforting sort of, his brain was almost like making him, it's definitely making him, in my interpretation, he was definitely hallucinating, but it was almost like a mirage of something that would bring him comfort.
It says it in the narration balloon that he is hallucinating.
Oh, okay.
So no. I was when Jim was asking that, I started pointing to it. It is funny though, because I understand what you were saying though. How there's a question about does his powers play into that. I liked what Freddie was saying though, because it actually, as you were saying that, Freddie, it made me start thinking of a different way. How his mind is kind of doing this to survive.
Yeah,
and your mind does do that. It starts creating comforting images for that. It
gives you blackouts sometimes where you can't the post-traumatic stress syndrome where you can't remember something, or in this case it's giving him the mentor, the friend, that comforting person who will always be there, not cause him. It's kind of like if you're asked to choose your destroyer and the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man comes at you. It's something that could never hurt you.
Except for cholesterol.
Yeah. That darn Rachel Ray. Yeah. She gives you marshmallows too?
Dude, Ghostbusters. The ending of Ghostbusters.
I'm kidding. Right. I know the Stay Puft Marshmallow
Okay, for a second.
But Rachel is a very generous person. So.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
Not to me. Sleep overtakes him, though, and I love how that kind of bleeds into seeing the King of Tears and how this all kind of comes together. I love the blurb next to Different Cry for Justice. Just kind of a neat little nod to the whole universe. It's a cool book. I'm getting really into it. I'm glad that we had the opportunity to talk to you about this book, too, because it is something that a lot of hard work is clearly going into this book and what you guys are building towards, and it's very cool. The King of Tears, that had to have been a fun one to draw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a little weird to draw him doing actions, like to draw him with intent, because he doesn't really have anything that you can identify with as human emotions or whatever. So, but yeah, he's like Cthulhu or something, that he's kind of like this powerful, this entity that is a potential world ender. And it's really cool to get to draw something like that. And he's alien enough that it's kind of hard to identify with his motivations and stuff too. So, yeah, I dig stuff like that.
Do you have to, when you're drawing a character, and I don't want to go too much into it because I don't want to reveal anything that you guys have done beyond this with him, because obviously it's going to that. But the kind of natural question out of that is, do you have to use then the people around him and the characters around him as reactions to what he's doing to indicate, or...
I think there's a lot of, I mean, that is a useful technique, but I think there's also, I think a main thing is you couldn't have him as like a main character in a book. I mean, that would be very weird, I guess, unless he had a bunch of narration captions or something, but it would be hard to just follow him or something. But usually it's the way that you identify that stuff is having other characters react, but in a way that says like, oh no, and now he'll do this, or I hope he doesn't do this, so that it makes clear what he's doing or something, because it's not like you can play it up with any of the sort of shorthand that we're used to with humans, like with shifty eyes or something like that, because although he has eyes, it's not in a way that we can really identify or that we're used to picking up on, so he's kind of insect or octopus-like.
It's kind of like dealing with Planet Mogo, with the Green Lantern Corps.
Yeah, it would be, there's a big difference. You'd have to develop a whole nother sort of shorthand language to make his actions or motivations rather clear.
I thought his left tentacle was saying love.
Love and then hate is tattooed on the other one. No, but actually, yeah, that was actually a really fun one to draw. It was very laborious, so, I mean, now I'm kind of facing to draw that in sequentials, so... I mean, I'm giving away a little bit that you see him again sequentially, but, not too much. I'm not giving away too much.
Yeah, because with him being in the cliffhanger, I think it's pretty much so a dead giveaway that we're
going to see him again.
Right?
Yeah.
I want to talk real quick about the co-feature. I'm not going to go crazy into that. I'm just going to make one statement about co-features in general and what I liked about this. And talking about value, we talked about it before. I wanted to know what's been going on with Liberty Bell and Hourman. One of my big concerns when I heard they were going to be on separate teams, and I love how this was played off in both books. Were they going to be together? Are they getting divorced? Are they having turmoil between the two of them? And I love how Willingham and Sturgis both made it a big joke on us. and played off the fact that they knew how fans would react. And that's fun because it shows that they were anticipating their audience. And going along with what I was saying before about Power Girl and Magog fighting, they went along right away and started telling us, here's what's happening. Now in this co-feature in the back, we get to see the two of them just be on an adventure together and establishing for us that none of this has changed their relationship. They are on both teams, acting as liaisons. It makes sense to have a married couple do that because they have separate jobs, but yet who better to communicate with each other in a way where they can make each other understand than a husband and wife who can kind of anticipate what the other means in subtext, because you would almost need to in these situations.
That was actually something we had talked about, or at least that they had made me aware of even back in, at San Diego Con. So yeah, it was something that they had been planning for a while. And
it was just cool, and I was glad to see the co-feature. It's a great example of a story that, how much can you really flesh that out in the main story? They did a great job of addressing it within the events, but it was cool to give us an adventure in the back. I like that stuff. I'm a big fan. I grew up with backup features in comics. I'm a big fan of it. I think this is a great example of, there's a lot of characters that can be spotlighted in this, where we have, just through our discussion in this, we had a lot of questions about a lot of these characters that we want to see more of, and that's a great way to kind of spotlight them for the next few issues, however long that they do this co-feature thing. But it does add some value, and you're getting extra pages, and it's fun. So that's kind of all I really wanted to say about it. But it kind of takes me back.
I like seeing stuff like that as well, and just as a as a guy who would like to try writing my own stuff as well, just to try my hand at it, I think it would be, I'm glad that they're doing the backups, because at some point that might be a way for me to try that out, just as a backup story. I mean, it's less of a commitment on DC's part and still gives you experience, though.
They're doing it with those 80-page giant, too, where they're pulling in some newer talent for the 80-page giants, like people you don't normally see writing or, in the DC universe and that type of thing. So it's great that I'm with you. It's nice to have those anthology style as well, because really, if you take a look at those stories, those are very much written similarly to the co-features. So it's kind of a great way to see different takes and different flavors of writing and art that you don't normally see. And I like that kind of stuff. So I'm with you. I mean, it's like, I'd love to see something you wrote in there. I think it's always fun to see, how would this person write, or what would their take be? And that's kind of, for me as a fan, that makes it's kind of refreshing to see just different takes and stuff like that. So it's fun.
Cool.
Freddie, your website, freddieart.com. You've got a YouTube channel now?
My website, freddieart.com, and then I have YouTube that is Freddie Art Media. So YouTube/Freddie Art Media, and Freddie spelled with an IE. And I don't have a ton of content, but I have, it was like, 8 parts or something, an interview that you guys, that we all did together about the how-to book that you were nice enough to put together on a slideshow. And then there's some other tutorial stuff on there. And then just recently a portfolio review I did for a guy named Nick Brock, who I went through and demonstrated some of the storytelling criticism or whatever that I had in his portfolio. So with his total cooperation. So the YouTube thing is something pretty new, and I'm excited to do it. I actually spent all of Christmas Day working on Nick Brock's portfolio review. Like, that's what I did on Christmas. So just because of how much I wanted to get into it, and that was a break, a time for me to get into it. So aside from that, I'm on Twitter as well, but I don't really post a ton of stuff, and also on Facebook. So I mean, there's a link. If you were just to go to my website, freddieart.com, there's a link to each of those from there. So if you just went there, it's like a portal to the rest.
Well, I want to thank you for your friendship to the show. I want to thank you for the opportunity, too, for the slideshow. That was a lot of fun for me. It was something I've never done before. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to do it. And
you did a great job. I appreciate it.
I want to thank you, too, for over the years that you've talked about where you've had your relationship with DC and then your exclusivity and all that. You've been a very good friend of the show. So I want to congratulate you on 3 years. I want to thank you for everything you've done for us and the time you've given us, from talking about your work to also the crazy Superman show we did way back when. And you've been very, very generous with us with your time. Your wife's been very generous in allowing us to have some time with you. And I've really appreciated the friendship over this time, and I want to thank you for all you've done for us.
Thank you guys very much for having me on the show, and I've enjoyed it to check in with you guys occasionally, so look forward to doing it again, too.
Cool. Want to remind everyone to check out FreddieArt.com for news on Freddie E. Williams II, and that's going to be right inside of our show notes, and you can get that right from the website as well, under the episodes section. Also remind everybody about David Barron's contest. Make sure to check that out. Remember, follow his blog, follow his Twitter. That's 2 entries, DC comps for 1 month. Very cool contest. A great blog if you want to check out some amazingly cool artwork. Check out David Barron's blog. Very cool. Sponsors for the episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, be sure to check out JSA All Stars. Regularly $3.99, 40% off only $2.39. Over at InStockTrades.com. Remember, our book of the month, end of January, we're going to be recording JLA Avengers, the trade paperback, DC, Marvel, 208 pages, Kurt Busiek, George Perez, regularly $19.99, 47% off because In-Stock Trades keeps supporting us, only $10.59. Thank you, InStockTrades.com, for supporting us with those trade paperbacks and hardcover discounts. We will be back next week with the second part of our look at Blackest Night. We are joined by Myron Rumsey, and it'll be a lot sooner than you think. It'll be either Sunday or Monday I'm going to be releasing it. I want to, over the weekend, start editing that one and putting it together. I'm shooting for Sunday night, but I'm thinking it might be Monday just because I need a little bit of time in between this episode and that one. But I want to once again thank Freddie E. Williams II for the wonderful time he's always given the show. It was such a fun interview. Be sure to listen to the end of this. There's actually a couple of little sequences that I cut out that I kept in their entirety. There's some more fun discussion with Freddie, Jim, and myself. There were some bits that I took out that took a little bit of time away from our comic book discussion, but they were really fun bits, so I wanted to put them on the episode. So they're kind of a fun little closing way to, like bonus features as we close out the episode for people that are interested. But he is always a great interview. We always had a great time with him, and definitely check out the end. You got about 5 minutes more of pretty cool interview discussion with Freddie E. Williams II. We will see you in a few days.
Bye! Diners, drive-ins, and dives is the staple in the household. And my dad, we plan vacations around restaurants that have appeared in that show.
Oh, wow.
And so we'll go to, when we're planning where we're going to go, he'll pull out his book and say, okay, well, we got to try out this place. We got to try out this place. And we've actually done side treks in the various trips we've made just so we can go to some of these places.
Wow, you guys are way more hardcore than
I wouldn't say hardcore, I'd say psycho.
I mean, like, on the Travel Channel, there's that dude, Man vs. Food.
Yeah.
I mean, that has tempted me. I saw something on there about in St. Louis, there's this like 10-pound pizza challenge or something, like you and a friend have to eat this huge pizza, and there was a time that me and one of my friends were going to go do that, but we didn't. So the fact that we did not means that you win. You win, that you guys actually have taken the detours to go to those places.
Yeah, well, we've never done any of the big food challenges that Man vs. Food does, because Dad and I will watch it and go, okay, no way we could do that. We're not even going to try.
Yeah. The ones that really get me are on the Man vs. Food is the super spicy ones. I sometimes wonder about that because I like my food really spicy, but I'm not trying to prove how badass I am or anything with it. So I actually think I might be able to handle. Or I'm curious as to if I could or not. But then the ones that make me go, oh, God, are the ones usually where you're eating like a dozen eggs in your omelet or something. Like, that just sounds terrible. Or he was eating, like, I don't know how many oysters, but all these oysters. And that was, I mean, I don't know if anyone listening to this, you guys or any of the listeners or whatever, are fans of oysters. I mean, I'm not putting down those people. But oysters just freak me out. It's just too gelatinous of a texture for me. So to see him just eating them over and over, and even he kind of get a little freaked out about it later on, where he was putting hot sauce and stuff on it to change up something about it. That was too much for me. But the Diners, Drive-ins, and Dives is done by that. Isn't the guy's name Guy Fieri? I think is his name.
Yeah. Well, Fieri.
Wasn't. Okay, Fieri. Wasn't he the winner of like some reality show that the Food Network had, so that he could become a host, and then he just spun off from that?
Yeah, he was it's the next Food Network star or something like that. He was one of the winners on that, and he's like a very accomplished chef, and he won his thing by, he does this weird thing with, he takes sushi that's not sushi. So he'll take like barbecue chicken and roll it and prepare it like it's sushi, and that's how he actually won his competition. Was this completely different, but it's a classic sushi, but it's not the raw fish; it's something else. It's barbecue chicken. You pick it. He did it in the sushi roll and just laid out like that, and it was just a kind of a neat thing. And I'm really going off on a tangent here massively.
There's nothing wrong with that. I think we're known to do that. But anyway,
diverticulitis.
What is that?
It's okay. It's basically, I was having problems with the intestinal type area and all that, and you get what happens. You get a little pocket kind of push out, and it's some people will say it's seeds or it's something else that doesn't completely digest. It pushes out, and then the little pocket that gets kind of pushed out from either, it can be intestine, it can be colon, or any various parts of the body in the whole digestive tract area, and that pocket gets infected. Well, I started having like some discomfort, and I was like, I'm okay, I think okay, and I let it go for like a week before I finally called my doctor. And as I'm talking to the doctor, I'm kind of doubled over in pain with these throbbing hitting. He goes, hang up the phone, go to the emergency room right now. And, so I spent a couple days in the hospital hooked up to an IV and was getting some, antibiotics pumped into me. I'm like, woohoo! It was the beginning of all my, medical wonderful adventure I've been having.
Wow. What That would be a very crazy experience. I mean, Kiki's best friend has that as well. So I knew, as soon as you described it, I knew what it was, but I didn't know, by the name, because it's kind of a non-intuitive, by the way it sounds. So, but yeah, I mean, once you get your diet down, it's, as I've heard, it's not as big of a deal. So, I mean, not to diminish what you went through, I'm sure it was very painful, but I'm trying to say it in a supportive sort of way.
Oh yeah, I don't have that much of a problems right now. I got some regular medicine I'm taking. They've eliminated all the really nasty stuff that it could be. So it's just the diet. I got dietary restrictions now, and I have to lose weight and that kind of things like that. If I start living a little bit healthier life, I probably would have less pain in my body. So kind of stuff I know, but I'm like, yeah. And Doc's like, you got to start doing it now.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually every one of us, I mean, I'm trying to exercise now to kind of get back to, I'm not trying to be all thin or anything, but just get back to a more reasonable weight or whatever. So I know what you mean. I mean, nothing wrong with that. That's good for, all levels of your health.
I don't know about you guys. I'm adding this to my Rachel Ray hate site. She laughs at Freddie's jokes. She puts you in the hospital with her cooking. Didn't do any of that for me. I'm just getting left out. You guys have these wonderful dates with her. I have nothing. I have nothing to show for it. Got no good stories with her. I actually started hate sites for both of you now as well, as the other men.
I know there's got to be a couple out there, I hate Jim, sites out there. So you can link up with them.
Oh, it could be a network.
Yeah.
With a web ring.
Build your contacts off of each other.
Yeah.